Please welcome Camille Esposito, Senior Brand Designer at GetAround.
I had tweeted about all my walk-on approaches, including a slow somersault and running around the crowd high-fiving, so sorry to disappoint with the classic water on the podium. Today I'll be talking about how to take back your website, so how to migrate a legacy website from being owned by engineering and coded the traditional way into a no-code tool like Webflow. I'm Camille Esposito. I'm a senior brand designer at GetAround, where I've been for the past 2 years. In the past year, GetAround is a car-sharing platform that lets people rent and drive cars shared by people in their city. In the past year at GetAround, a lot of what I've worked on has been migrating our site from being owned by engineering into Webflow so that the marketing and design teams could own the actions needed on that website. Before GetAround, I was at a small design agency called How Redesign, where I introduced Webflow so that we could build sites for our clients rather than relying on Adobe Muse, which was awesome 4 years ago, or WordPress developers. I realized the other day that I've been on Webflow since November 19th, 2015, so my 4-year Webflowversary is coming up soon, which is a thing. And I'm on Twitter at Camille Espo. I resurrected my Twitter for this talk, so let me know any questions you have, and don't read my 2013 tweets. So in the next 15 minutes, I'll be talking about why you might migrate your website into a no-code tool and how to do so in 5 steps based on my experience doing so at GetAround. So no-code tools empower your team with ownership of your website, letting your team own web growth and performance and letting engineering focus on making a great product. Before we migrated to no-code, our entire website was owned by engineering and coded the traditional way. This means that anytime we wanted to make a change to our website, even something as simple as updating a headline, we got the, sorry, we couldn't prioritize it. We had a lean engineering team and too many priorities. The marketing team wanted to do a lot of things to the marketing pages of our website, and the engineering team had a lot of work to do on the product. GetAround is a product-based company, and without a great product, there's nothing to market, so this makes sense. But as a result, since 2011, to 2019, a few months ago, the only updates we made to the marketing pages of our website were for legal or product reasons and never for marketing or design optimizations. This is our 2011 website that we had for 8 years and the way we all felt about the fact that we couldn't change anything on it. So in the past couple years, as GetAround has grown, so have our goals. Marketing has bigger goals for web, like redesigning it and hitting ambitious SEO and conversion goals. We migrated to Webflow so that we could take these goals into our own hands and get things done. Since we didn't make any marketing edits from 2011 to 2019, it technically took us 8 years to update a headline before no-code. Since migrating to no-code, it takes us a few seconds. We can do it in the room as soon as somebody asks for it. So that was the why, now for the how. As I mentioned, a few months ago, we launched our migrated website from Webflow back in May. The core team that handled this migration consisted of me and my coworker Meg, who is a project manager at GetAround, but who, like me, served many roles throughout this migration process. We learned a lot along the way, which is what informs this talk. So the 5 steps to reclaim your website are to get buy-in, to assemble your team, to select your pages, design and develop them, and evangelize the launch. So first, get buy-in from key stakeholders by strategically wading in. This is especially important if your company has never heard of no-code tools, or maybe they've heard of them, but can't believe you're proposing rebuilding a legacy website in some sort of elementary WYSIWYG. So wade in with lower-risk web pages, like promotional pages or a blog or an internal tool. Basically, not your home page or your main driver of conversions. The wade-in is sort of a proof of concept for the tool. Use your wade-in to get buy-in by proving your claims. So for GetAround, we started by using Webflow for lower traffic promotional landing pages. We used the process of building those pages and the finished pages to prove that everything we were claiming about no-code was true, that we could work quickly and efficiently and meet our goals faster, and that marketers and designers could make a website that actually worked and didn't have any downtime. During your wade-in, document or demo everything. Show, don't tell, how no-code is going to help you achieve your goals. So an example for Webflow would be to export the code and send it to an engineer to show them how clean and semantic it is, or demo the CMS to a copywriter to get them excited about the tool. Basically, the goal of the wait-in is to get people excited about the tool so that you can convince them that you should move more of your website into a no-code tool. So once you've gotten buy-in, it's time to assemble your team. This is probably the most important thing I learned throughout the process. No code does not equal no team. Invest in a robust web squad up front for the migration process so that down the line, a smaller team can maintain and scale your website. The way we did it at GetAround is the way I don't recommend. Like I said, the core team on this project was myself and my coworker, Meg. Between the two of us, we did a lot of roles. Strategy around the pages to launch, building pages, managing developers who built pages, trying to come up with systems to make those builds clean, coordinating with engineering on any lingering dependencies, designing pages, writing copy. We were the 8-armed stock photo guy. Recommendation is to be the office having a party. So recommended squad consists of these roles, all of which are filled by my dog Olive, who is booked up for the next few months. So a product manager to handle strategy and any cross-functional work, a project manager to get things done, visual developers, so people who are going to build your site, who know development best practices and are going to build your site in a way that is scalable and maintainable and clean. If anybody saw Verity's talk this morning, you should watch her talk to sort of see more on this point. It's a no-code tool, but what you are doing is still producing code, so the way you write styles is still important. And then the bottom row are roles that you would have on a web squad no matter what platform you're launching on. So designers, copywriters, SEO experts, content producers, etc. Prove you need this squad by educating stakeholders that no code still requires visual development. I learned that it's really important to educate on the difference between these two separate workflows within no code. Not just anybody can go into your project and build a page from scratch without accruing a lot of technical debt or making something that you won't be able to scale and maintain down the line, which is the whole benefit of using no code. Like Verity said in her talk, you don't need to be a traditional developer to use no-code tools, but you do need to know development best practices. So one way to educate stakeholders on this is, again, to demo. So show the workflow of a visual developer. A screen recording, a live demo, even just showing a screen capture of the UI can do a lot to give transparency to what you're saying. Basically, to show that this job is complicated. And then demo how what that developer set up lets somebody go in and edit a headline really easily. So after you've assembled your team, it's time to select which pages would most benefit from a no-code tool. Work with product engineering and a person who is really familiar with the nooks and crannies of your website to figure out which parts of your website would most benefit from being migrated. This will be different for every company. Some things to keep in mind are page goals versus ownership. Product functionality, so any product functionality that would require extensive custom code would be a reason to not migrate that page over to no code. And scalability, so thinking about things like leveraging the CMS and which pages would benefit from that. For GetAround, the breakdown of which parts of our website to migrate was pretty clear. Before a user logs in, they're served marketing pages like home, how it works, about. Once they're logged in, they're in the product, searching for cars, looking at details about their booked trips, looking at their account details. We migrated the pre-login pages so that marketing could own the work associated with the goals that we had for the website. We still use this pre-login versus logged-in delineation to talk about the two different ecosystems that our website currently lives on. Again, this has the advantage of letting engineering continue to focus on making the product experience great and letting marketing focus on marketing that great product experience. So now it's time to build it. This is actually more than 50 steps, but for the sake of this talk, the step is don't design or develop in a vacuum. This isn't just the usual don't design in a vacuum separate from your users, but don't design in a vacuum separate from your no-code tool. I'll run through some specific tips to keep in mind as you design and build a site for no code. Some of these tips are Webflow specific since that's the tool we use to get around. Leverage experts early and often. If the first time you're talking to your visual developer is when you're handing off your Figma file, you're too late. Work with your visual developer to figure out if your desired designs and functionality are possible in the tool or possible in the time frame you'd like them to be done. Or become an expert yourself by using resources like MakerPad, Webflow University, Design Code. Building sites for freelance clients and using Webflow University is how I learned so much about Webflow. Familiarize yourself with the constraints of your no-code tool and design within them. So an example for Webflow here is these are the predetermined breakpoints baked into Webflow. The desktop breakpoint means that a design that works at 992 pixels has to also work at 1600 pixels. This is good to keep in mind if the users of your website are all on ultra screens. This is something you'd want to know before you start designing. A sort of scarier example of why this is important is before we started working with Webflow, we used an unnamed competitor and got all the way to building pages before realizing that it was not responsive. So familiarize yourself with the constraints of your tool so that you know to move forward with it a certain way or to choose a different tool. Maximize your use of the CMS. This is another place where you can work with your visual developer to determine opportunities to use things like collection lists and collection pages. A collection page is a bit more effort than a static page, and from it, your team can launch hundreds of pages, so these are really powerful things to leverage. Use visual developer guidelines. So again, this is what Verity's talk was all about. Basically, remember that you are still building a robust website, even though you're doing it through a no-code interface. You need guidelines so you don't end up with, for example, 5 different classes that all make something purple. And finally, be cautious with custom code. Relying on custom code too much defeats the purpose of using no-code tools. Do use custom code for minor CSS styling. So in Webflow, it could be changing the color of an arrow in a carousel. Or for JavaScript or authentication, sign-in authentication logic. Do not build entire elements with HTML and CSS in custom code. This defeats the purpose of no code. Then you're looking, what you see in the designer UI is a bunch of empty boxes. The whole, one of the great things is that what you see in the designer is what you get when you publish. This also makes it harder for you to scale. So use no-code tools the way they're meant to be used to most benefit from their strengths: maintainability, scalability, being able to see everything rather than looking at code. So you did all of those things. You built your site. Now it's time to launch it. Aside from the normal things you do when you launch a website, like looking at metrics, QA, being on call for bugs, evangelize your no-code site launch. So get out there and socialize its process, its successes, and everything you've unlocked with no-code. Keep the buy-in and stoke high with lunch and learns and demos. People love a good Webflow GIF. Some things to demo might be a designer updating the CMS with new images and copy really quickly, somebody building a collection page off of a collection page template, interactions, anything that keeps people excited and informed on everything that your tool is doing. And document the goals you achieved and continue to achieve because of your no-code migration. Think about things like velocity of work that has been unlocked with no-code. How many pages can you now launch per week? How fast are you iterating? Also think about things like web metrics. How has your site traffic and SEO improved? So for GetAround, before migrating to no-code, we did pretty much nothing to our website. After migrating, we are launching pages weekly. Total site sessions have increased by 80%. Organic search sessions have increased by 55%. And besides these metrics, we're able to work much more nimbly to keep up with the speed at which GetAround is moving. This was pressure tested a few months ago. We had an important and time-sensitive business initiative. We had to design and launch a page within 5 days. Because of Webflow, we were able to do that. The added benefit is that engineering was free to focus on the engineering component of that initiative. So once more, these are the 5 steps to reclaim your site. Get buy-in, assemble your team, select your pages, design and develop them, and evangelize the launch. Hopefully this was helpful to you all. Please let me know any questions you have around the conference or on Twitter so we can hide my 2013 tweets. Slides will be shared afterwards. Thank you.